Hello and welcome. Today I'm going through a demo of Rockton Pricing Management. We call it RPM for short. This demo will give you an idea of how RPM can work with multiple ERPs and how it calculates prices. First, let me tell you a little bit about Rockton software. Our goal for our products is to make your work simpler and easier so you can spend your time on more important tasks. Rockton software has been around since 1999. We started as an ISV selling add-on products for Dynamics GP and have also become an Acumatica reseller. We're a virtual company with employees in 7 different states and headquarters in Erie, Colorado. One of the products we sell is OmniPrice, which is a pricing add-on for Dynamics GP. This is where we got the idea for RPM. It's a bigger and better version of OmniPrice. RPM is a SQL-based, standalone product that can be an add-on to multiple ERPs. Currently, it's available for Acumatica and Dynamics GP. It's configured and managed through a web browser. It integrates with the ERP through a connector that's installed within the ERP, and in this case, Dynamics GP. What does RPM offer? RPM lets you set up pricing for the most basic scenario to something more complex. There are a lot of things you can do with RPM. Customer-specific pricing, date-driven pricing, so you can set up pricing ahead of time and have it go into effect at a particular time, stacked price calculations, where you might have multiple discounts, fees, and other calculations, volume and tiered pricing, rebate management, and so much more. As long as you have a way to get a starting price, we can help. Now, if you have salespeople who make up prices as they go, that gets a little more difficult. Setting up your pricing in RPM is easy and integrates well with GP. As you enter sales transactions, RPM goes out, looks for a price in RPM using the connector. It then pushes the price back into GP along with any adjustments like discounts, promos, fees, rebates, or any other calculations you need. So let's take a look at how RPM works with GP. In GP, let's enter a sales invoice. In this example, it's for a customer who has special pricing. As you can see, the end user wouldn't really notice a difference when entering a transaction. After the line is entered, we can click Additional RPM Sales Line Details to see what price adjustments were made to this transaction. For this line, the following price adjustments were included. They got a 10% discount, plus they have an additional 8% discount for a promo we're running. And due to some shipping requirements, there's also a temporary fee added to the line for this particular item. And then lastly, they also get a rebate on an item they're purchasing. Notice that 3 of the adjustments changed the base price, where the rebate calculation did not. You may not have this many price adjustments on a line, but you can see how flexible it is when it comes to pricing. And if you want to see how that price came to be, you can use the View Diagnostic feature to see how the price was calculated. It takes you step by step on how it found the price used. Let's take a look at RPM and how it was set up to reach the price it used in GP. In RPM, it's broken down into a few sections. ERP data, this is data from GP. This is done through the implementation and then stays in sync between GP and RPM. This data would still be managed within GP and synced to RPM, and you wouldn't add, edit, or delete any of the data through RPM. Pricing. The pricing section is where you'll set up your pricing requirements. Using the example from the transaction we just entered, let's take a look at how that was set up. So we have our price schedule, and the price schedule ties directly to your price level in GP and is where the pricing information comes from when RPM is called to get a price. Notice I have this Use in Dynamic Pricing checkbox marked. This means I want RPM to find the best price schedule for the transaction line. If this was not marked, it would be called static pricing, where the price schedule defaults based on the price level assigned to the transaction, and GP would drive that. On the price schedule, there's a pricing filter you could use for loyal customers or specific items. A pricing filter can filter based on attributes of a customer or an item, and also date, location, and others. There's a rank, so we can rank the price schedule to have one more important than others. The price source option is important as that's where the price originates. It can be based on another price schedule, the last item cost, the list price, a price book, which we'll talk about in a bit. But this gives you more flexibility in determining your price. You can also use rounding rules on your prices. For example, you might want your prices to end in 99 cents, or when you have a sale, the price always ends in an even dollar amount. Or you might want the price to round up to the nearest 25 cents. This section here is where we have the price calculations. These are where you can determine discounts, fees, commissions, rebates, and whatnot. We saw in the transaction in GP that each of these calculations were used to get the final price except for the rebate. Let's take a closer look at the discount price calculation. On a price calculation, we can select the price mode option as to whether it is a fixed adjustment or percent adjustment or whichever. And then depending on, you enter whether it's an amount or a percent. The checkboxes allow you to modify the unit price. For our example, this discount calculation is going to affect the price because we want to reduce the price by that discount amount. This box was left unmarked for the rebate since we only wanted to calculate what the rebate would be without affecting the price. This works great for margins and commissions as well. The box from the base starting price means do you want to calculate this from the base price or the last calculated price? For example, having two discounts, you calculate the first one, and then the next discount can be based on that price or the original price. This use value from attribute is another way to determine pricing. For example, Platinum, Gold, and Silver level customer could be an attribute, and you base it off of that rather than having different price schedules. The attribute comes from the pricing filter. As I mentioned, we can have a pricing filter on a price schedule, but we can also assign them to the price calculation. So we could have one price schedule and then assign a pricing filter to each price calculation and calculate the discounts based on that. Another way RPM is so flexible. There's usually more than one way to set up your pricing in RPM. It really is based on what works best for you. In this tracking section of the price calculation, you can choose to track the adjustments in the GL so you can code your discounts, rebates, and whatnot to their own GL account when you enter a transaction. Mark to track and then choose your GL accounts. This makes tracking your calculations super easy. When we were looking at the price source options on the price schedule, one of the options was price book. This is another way for you to price your items. You can set up a price book with price sheets, and think of a price sheet as a price list. It's date-driven and allows you to set a price here and have RPM use that price. Notice in this example, I have a price book for annual pricing and have set up pricing for the current year, the next year, and I also have a fall sale. This is also where you can set up quantity breaks if you price your items based on quantity sold. You can do it based on volume, where the price is based on the quantity break, or tiered, where it is the average price of each quantity break affected. I also wanted to mention that you'll notice the import-export buttons on most pages. You can import and export records to make things a little simpler. This is helpful when you do have changes to pricing or if you want to create similar records with just a few changes. Under the Tools section, we have pricing scenarios. You can create pricing scenarios to test your pricing and make sure you get the results you expect. You can save a pricing scenario so you can run it again in the future without having to enter all the information again. We have one already created, and note not every field is used. You choose what you want to use to build the scenario. Click Execute, and then click the Results tab to see the price returned. This is a beneficial tool when it comes to testing. There's a View Diagnostics here as well, so you can see how the price was found. Throughout this demo, I've mentioned rebates and how you can use a price calculation to figure those. But another part of RPM is rebate management, where you can go and pull your rebates to pay or bill a customer or vendor. Let's take a look at how that works. Back in GP, go to the Process Rebates window, which is found under Transactions, Rockton Pricing Management, or use the shortcut. In this window, you create your rebate batch based on the GL account. I've already created a batch to capture those rebates. When I enter the GL account, the list of available rebates are displayed. Mark those to include and then create the rebate transaction based on what you selected here. From that point, the transaction created is treated like any other transaction. And while this is called rebate management, you could actually use this for other price calculations as well, such as margins, commissions, or royalties. We just went through one simple example of pricing in RPM, but there's so much you can do with it. The flexibility makes it easy to do what you need. If you have any questions or you would like more information, you can contact our sales team at sales@rocktonsoftware.com. Also, you can visit our website at rocktonsoftware.com and click on the Products heading and then Rockton Pricing Management.